Good afternoon, everyone. This is Twan, and this is my first try at reviewing one of the recent games I had on Advance Wars by Web. I got back into it recently with all the hype for the reboot coming, and forgot how fun this can be with the long play of Advance Wars. This game was particularly good. I've been struggling in Fog of War quite heavily, and I loved the design of this map with the pipe seams in the forest, plenty of areas to hide in this forest and this forest here, as well as in the southbound sections as well. With the match, the forests will play a vital role for each side, as well as these two comm towers here, hidden behind these seams, as well as this and this one here. I like the placement of the airports, and with only the three bases here on each side, this is a very move in groups type of map. I ended up picking Jake, and my opponent picked Adder. Found Jake would have been the better choice in this map, simply for the amount of planes, and his power allows him to get more movement and space range on his indirects, which is something I've been practicing to get better utilization of artillery and rockets. But the match itself wasn't too long, I think about 30 days or maybe 16 days. I guess we'll find out. And overall, it was pretty good. So the first few days is what you would expect. I built a couple infantry. My opponent, Blue Reaver, he had the second turn advantage. The player 2 advantage, so he had an infantry. So he built one and moved it up to get a base and built another one. So nothing too surprising. And I did something pretty similar. One for a base in the south, one for the city in the south, one for a base. Built two more infantry. And I think my goal here was to get the airport and then get some of those inner cities first near the HQ. Looks like Blue Reaver is doing pretty similar. One for a city in the north. Started to cover those mountains. Looks like he's going to go for the cities, those three cities down here. So just continuing the capturing, making my way through the inner. At this point, I was starting to think, how would I gain the advantage here? Since we're still in the early game, and there's a large amount of cities, and I need to obtain a higher income. So my long-term goal here was to capture the airport and then build an APC or a transportation copter, and then start moving south to get this airport down here as soon as I can. I did see Reaver went for an early recon, which is good for getting that vision. But I was thinking in this map, since tanks have a pretty decent range, 3 or 4, they would have just as useful as a recon, considering the amount of space that either would have to traverse. And here I go here, getting the airport, getting the city, and then starting to capture the three cities in the middle. And just building more infantry. And I see that Reaver went for the middle. It seems like he got there a little quicker than I did, but he did sacrifice some infantry to get that recon out. And he continues to capture. Going forward north, looks like he's going to start going for the cities in the middle, and eventually lead up to that airport. Oh, and I didn't even notice, but he's ignoring the airport in the corner, which I don't think I agree with, especially with how important air units will end up being on this map. So he has a unit advantage at the moment. Right now I have an income advantage, and I built my first artillery. So the idea I had for the artillery was I wanted to crack the seams on this so I can get to the comm tower. Because my thought process was if I get this one and this one, it's a 20% boost, plus the boost from being on the planes. So I can have a 30% firepower increase in most scenarios, which should allow me to one-shot most of his units, considering that Adder doesn't have any day-to-day abilities. So I continue on building more infantry. Still nothing too crazy. Interesting choice Reaver's having here, moving the recon into the middle. Not sure what his thought process was, since to me, the middle didn't really have anything besides those 6 cities and the lab. While it would have provided some units, I'm pretty sure that anything that was there that you would have gotten from the lab wasn't banned. So to me, it was pretty useless. And these 2 corners is where I felt was the primary spots to get to win this match. So I'm not agreeing with what he's doing, but it's his decisions in the end. So he's going for the middle, getting the cities there. Pretty smart, getting that income. Getting to heal if he needed to, and he's still getting the cities in the south. So he's doing good here. Built an APC. I don't agree with the APC build here. I was considering it in the beginning, but with all the force, I felt it was too slow, and just getting the helicopter would be much better. Okay, and he still did not get the airport. I'm surprised he's going for those cities without going for that airport first. And still, I continue on. I placed my artillery right here with the idea to break open these seams, put my infantry here to capture the city since it'll take a couple turns. I think I was only getting about 40 to 44 damage on these seams, so it was going to take at least 3 turns to get that done. Still making my way over here to get the rest of these cities, the comm tower and the airport. And moving some of my infantry down south. So here I built the second artillery to help with the journey south, to give my infantry some protection. And I built the helicopter, the transportation copter, to move one of these infantry south, with the end up with my goal to get this airport first, because my thought, if I can control the air, then I should have a pretty easy win for this. I do not agree with this recon at all. See, to me, this recon is useless. It can't see anything, can't see the forest, can't see any of this anyway. He should have assumed I was going to go for the early well, he should have assumed I would have went for the comm tower at some point. And with the Fog of War maps, when you crack open a seam, it will show, so that would give an indication that something's happening if you cracked open the seam. So to me, this recon is useless, since I wasn't going to go into the middle anyway. And he continues on with the capturing, getting that city, getting another city, and he's starting to make his way left. And he finally goes for that airport, and he's moving his APC north. And so nothing too crazy. And he built his first tank. I've yet to build my first tank, but that is okay since we're not even close to engagements yet. Oh, what's going on? It froze. That's not good. Let's give this a minute. Let's try to refresh the page. Oop. Okay. I think that went back a couple turns, but that's okay. Back to where we were. Yeah, so overall, I'm not agreeing with his early game. Mine isn't perfect either, but I don't think he was going as aggressively as he could have been to get to the corners. It seems like he was trying to really focus on the middle to get something done there. So, my turn. I continue with capturing the properties, getting those cities in the middle, loading up my transportation copter, moving it down. I have an infantry in there, and I'm just continuing south. I feel like this transportation copter was the key to this entire match, and I'm bringing my artillery down. Not overly concerned with it being protected at this point because I didn't think he'd really have anything that close. And even if he did, I didn't think it'd have any vision on me. So, is it the best spot? Maybe not, but let's protect it. And he definitely didn't have anything behind me, nothing to the left, and really only one spot, and I didn't see anything there. So I continue capturing the cities up north, get my fort going here for the forest for protection, just in case he did have something up there. At least I'm protected a bit. Continuing to capture. Built my first battle copter. I did attack this seam. Did I attack? Yeah, I did attack this seam, so it should be broken in another turn or two. And I created my first battle copter. I opted for the copter instead of a tank, again because of the forest. I felt it would be easier to move compared to the tank at this point. So it looks like he's moving his tank more towards the middle. He's continuing to capture, going for that city. He's starting to move his infantry into the forest. Very similar, but even here I can see that he's one tile behind, which will end up impacting him in the next few turns. So he's finally making it up to north. He is a little bit further ahead of me in that aspect. He does have a small income lead of 2,000. And he moved his infantry back. What was he doing? Oh, he looks like he unloaded his infantry here. He's going to have that one go towards the middle, probably work its way around, and then take this and move him up. So again, I don't agree completely with what he's doing. I get why he's doing what he's doing. But it seems like to me that he's focusing on the middle, where he should really be focusing on the corners, and he should be getting this airport at the end of this turn. And look, he loaded up his infantry. So he finally has his first airport, and he built an anti-air. But I already have a battle copter on its way. And we'll see how well this works out for him. So I continue my way south. I shoot on the seam again. It should be breaking soon. And at this point, I took some risks, and I decided. Oh wait. So I took some risks, and I built the tank up here. Some more infantry. These infantry should, continue capturing properties. One more hit on the seam, and it'll break. And the tank I have ready to help protect the units around me. And here I have the infantry behind this artillery behind the infantry just to keep it protected in case he did have something coming up from that angle. I also have some protection here. I'm still out of his vision, so he can't see anything. But if he tried to come from the left, he would have to have very specific movements to get past these guys. The infantry were not in the best spots, but I was mainly going for the protection for the capturing and assuming something would come up from the south. And now, see, I have my transportation copter within one more turn of reaching his airport down here. And as we can see, he has really nothing to contest me, even if he started moving this anti-air over. By the time it gets there, I should be able to capture that without any real problems. So here he continues capturing. He's going for the middle, which again I don't entirely agree with, but I understand the logic. He's placing his infantry into the forests, moving his anti-air up, and he's moving north. So what we can see, what I've noticed here is that I rush to get to these sides, so I'm there a little bit earlier than him, but he has more of a vehicle he has his tank and anti-air can really counter with what I'm doing. But because of the forest up here, I should be able to avoid any anti-air relatively easily. And then once my artillery gets in there, it should be a done deal. So I start focusing in this bottom left-hand corner, cleaning up the rest of the cities, moving into forest to keep protected, moving my transportation copter down, putting the infantry behind it, just to keep it protected. So if he had something coming from the left, get some vision on the airport to see if he even had anything there. And if something were to happen to sneak up and hit me from the city, I have the artillery protecting it. So I was pretty confident at this point. I kept moving my infantry down. It did look like he had a good army amassing, but it was just always out of range and he wasn't seeing what I was doing. I moved my battle copter up into this forest so it was essentially protected if he had something coming. My goal for this infantry was to get it to this city, and I started capturing the comm tower up in this corner. So that it should give me a pretty good boost the next turn, and this seam should be destroyed pretty soon. I think it will be destroyed on this turn, and I started bringing this tank down. So now this tank is covering the artillery if something were to attack it, and if something were to come over here, I would be able to attack the tank without any real problems. The only way that an item can get anything can really get to this artillery at this point is if it came through this field, which will be protected by my tank, since this is blocked off by the infantry at this point. I built two anti-airs just in case he had any air units coming. I figured at some point he would. I was making the assumption that he had this airport at this point, or was going to get it very soon. And as we can see here, the seam busted open. So this infantry will make its way down, and that will be my second comm tower. And I had the city and the comm tower here. So this comm tower is essentially uncontested, and it will become mine next turn, since he has nothing that will reach it. And he's nowhere close to getting his power, so it's really a non-issue there. So we can see that Blue Reaver is making his way north. He's getting the rest of these cities. He started getting the middle, so I didn't really make any effort to get the middle in the beginning. Like I said, I did not think it was that important. I felt the corners were the optimal areas. He made his way into the forest, keeping his infantry hidden. Good idea in the short term, since he was not sure if I had anything there, and he couldn't reach the airport anyway. So it's a good way to keep your unit hidden. And if I happened to go for the forest, I would have been trapped. So it does help with that situation. I would imagine that he would start going for the comm tower at this point, which it looks like he is. He took his infantry out of the forest, so can there to shoot down anything that might come by if it is an infantry. Starts moving his artillery through the forest, which will take some time to get to where we're at. But in the forest, that artillery can be pretty devastating, just due to the level of protection it gets from the fog and the forest, and it can stay hidden very well. So up he goes, going for the middle. Only moved his anti-air a few tiles into that forest. I don't necessarily agree. I think he should have gone for the full range on there, considering that he did not see me move any units into the middle. He could have been a bit more daring with what he's got. He moved some infantry into his APC, keep going north, and we built a rocket. I didn't even know he had a rocket. So he's continuing north with his infantry. He built a rocket. This rocket I don't think was going to get any use, considering that if it wants to go through here, it has to go through forest tiles. And this is on wheels, and wheels do very bad in the forest. And I don't know why he would think I have anything down here. But there it is. So I'm thinking he's going to use that to bust open this scene, along with this, maybe get it down in 2 turns and start capturing the comm tower. So we'll see what happens. So I continue my way down. I now start capturing one of the cities that should have been his. I start going for the airport. I put the artillery there for protection. I assumed he had something here, so I put the air helicopter here to help protect it. So if he was able to attack, he would have to attack on the road with no defense, and he would only be able to get one unit to attack me to help mitigate some of that damage. The artillery would be there to shoot down anything that happens to move there. And even if the artillery did take some damage, I assumed he only had infantry there, so it would be not too bad. And plus I had many infantry here to shoot down anything and help protect both units, and my tank should be there within the next turn or two. So I bring my tank down, bring the anti-air down, start moving the anti-air to the right, start moving my artillery over. My goal is to put it into the forest to help give me some cover fire. Start moving more units to the right, start getting a city, end up getting a comm tower and a city. These two really should have, these two, weren't too bad to get. Now that I have a battle copter within range to cover this whole area, we can see that no matter what he does, the battle copter would be able to protect me. So I have this covering in many different spots. I do move it to another forest to keep it protected. It does give me some vision here, so I know he starts he's starting to do something, so I know he's in the area. If he has an anti-air, I'm not sure at this point, but I do know he at least has some infantry. But with this comm tower, I get that 10% boost, plus the planes, so I get essentially a 20% boost in certain situations. At this point, I built a medium tank. I was trying to avoid basically a slugfest between tanks. So I just wanted a medium tank early due to the high level of income that I was getting each turn. So I thought, well, if I get a medium tank, even if he has a few regular tanks, should be able to one-shot them or significantly damage them before they really, start a swarm. So back to Blue Reaver's turn. He's continuing moving north, getting the rest of his cities on the right. He still has an income lead on me. He's going for the lab, which I don't see the point. But he does have an income lead on me, and he started to attack my infantry. So this will be the first engagement that we've had. Nothing too crazy. He captured the comm tower, which gave him a 10% boost, but I was on this base, so I had three stars of defense, so it mitigated some of the damage that he was doing. He moves his artillery into place, so I'm assuming he's going to start attacking this seam. What helps here is that these 2 units are out of range for his vision. So even though he is attacking me, I can move this infantry. I can move this down to attack him here, move the infantry back up, and then attack here. So I do have some options no matter what he does. And even if he does move out of range, I can always start trying to capture these items to reclaim them back. Okay. So he starts moving his anti-air. He does a big move in the middle. It's essentially useless since I don't really have anything there. He moves his transportation copter up. He started finally moving his recon, so he has some vision on me. So he must know at this point that I have a city and the com tower. He knows I'm going for the middle one, so he must assume I have. I'm not sure what his thought process was, but at this point, if I saw somebody pop this top scene, I would know they're going for the com tower. He moves some infantry to the left, moves the rocket to the left as well. This is essentially useless. All it can do is really attack one of these seams. So if it was me, I would attack this, break it next turn, and then send an infantry up. But even if he does, that infantry won't do anything for 3 turns. So he did finally build a battle copter, and I did have my anti-air up here in preparation for this moment. So by the time my anti-air gets down to where it needs to be, if he did have the battle copter over there in that corner, in the left corner, my anti-air should be able to take care of it in one shot. And he continues making infantry move up north. Still nothing over the top. And he built a tank. I'm assuming this tank will start moving left since he built it in this corner, but we shall see. So at this point, he has a significant lead on me in units. I did not know that. I thought at this point I was doing pretty well. He has an income lead on me somehow. Oh, I didn't capture yet. So he has an income lead on me, he has a value lead, and he has a unit lead. But what I have is some key properties that are going to become mine this turn. So the biggest move here is I first went for this com tower, so that will be mine next turn. I got this city, which really should have been probably his. I got the airport, which probably should have been his as well. And I killed his unit that he had here with my artillery. So the placement here worked out in the end. So this brought me up to 19,000. But to me, the significance here is that this airport was now mine. So I can start pumping out air units in this part of the map if I need to, instead of building up here and taking 2 or 3 turns to make it to the engagements. This is why I felt the transportation copter was so clutch. I really do think the transportation copter really made this match go much more smoother than it could have, since I was able to get here in 1 or 2 turns quicker, compared to what my opponent was doing. So at this point, I just finished capturing any bases that I could. I started capturing this one, so that I should get that in the next turn without any problem. Brought my tank down for protection, moved my infantry out, moved all my infantry to around the artillery to give it some protection, just in case he has something coming. I threw my transportation copter into the forest just to keep it hidden in case my opponent had something around, since at this point the airport was mine and I was not overly concerned. I think my idea here was to move it into my infantry into the copter and then maybe move it over here or take advantage of the movement. So I continue moving my units out there, and then we make our way back up north to finish up our movements up here. I take my infantry off the com tower with the goals of getting the airport within the next few turns. Move my anti-air more to the right. Move my artillery over a bit. Get it in the forest. Get my infantry out. Put it in range of the com tower. I should have probably put it in the forest. I'm not sure why I didn't do that. There was probably a reason, or I just did a bad move. So that was a bad move. Should have put it in the forest, but can't go back. I started moving my medium tank over in case he had some tanks there. This will take a couple turns to reach over, but it should be there within the next 3 days. Knowing that he had infantry here, I was starting to getting concerned that he had an anti-air floating around. So I moved my battlecopter into the forest. And even if he did have an anti-air, this infantry here was protecting it. So that might have been why I did what I did. I don't remember, or if it was just an accident and it happened to work out. So this battlecopter is essentially protected from any anti-airs. It has an artillery here to take care of any units that might sneak up. Even if a unit does make it to this forest, they can't attack the the artillery, because of the fog. And I have a few units close by. So I end up building another battlecopter, a tank, and an infantry. And my goal here is to just start amassing an army. So my Blue Reaver now is moving in. At this point, he sees that I have the comm tower, moves his recon into the forest just to give him some vision. Not a bad move, since he can now pretty much see what's going on here. He'll know that I at least have the comm tower in one of the cities, and he knows I have an infantry within range of that airport, and he knows that I'm gunning for it. Even if I go for it right now, since he has the 2 infantry there, there's no way I would get it, since he would just shoot that infantry down. And, I still won't have the airport, but I'll be down one unit. He captures the lab. He moves his tank into the forest for some reason. I don't really get what his plans are here. There's no way he'd break this seam in time to really make a difference. I have no units around here, and these 2 units are essentially useless since I don't have any air units around here, and I'm not doing anything in the middle. So he moves it on the base. Forest, good, protecting his infantry. So he has all the cities here. He still has an income lead on me, mostly because he's going for the middle. But because I have this comm tower, and I will have this comm tower the next turn, I do have a significantly higher attack boost compared to my opponent. And because I have this airport, I can get units attacking, not units, but air units in the field attacking much quicker than he can at this point. He starts bringing his tank and battlecopter over, puts it in the forest, a good move. And if I had something here, they would both be attacked by the artillery and the rockets, so they are being covered. So this is a good move here. If I happen to have any items there, he brings his transportation copter back down. I get what he's doing. He's just ferrying infantry back and forth, which is a good plan. But I don't like the placement that he did here. I'm assuming he's going to build an infantry on this base, which is fine. But because he's going to just build it and then put it in, he's really wasting spaces on the transportation copter. If he put it, maybe on the mountain or right here, if he was building a mech, he would get a few more spaces of movement. So just something to keep in mind when you're using APCs or transportation units. Just think about what you want them to do. And if you're going to just he's putting a mech. So he could have put it right here and then the mech walk into it. So he would have saved one space. And then if he was going to bring the APC down, he could have also had the transportation copter refueled. Not a huge mistake, but just something to keep in mind, that he's pretty much wasting a movement, and he could have got it gassed back up. He built the 2 tanks. He saw that I have a transportation copter now because he was going to go into the forest, which was a good idea, except that was there. So he essentially became trapped, and because I have an infantry here and here, that unit will essentially die the moment my turn comes up. And we're going to see what he's going to end up doing with these tanks. So he does have a significant unit advantage on me and a value advantage But when I look at what units are in each spot, he mostly has infantry and a single recon up here, where I have a medium tank, an anti-air, an artillery, and a battle copter. So these four units can essentially go do whatever they want in this section, since the infantry will basically do no damage to these units. And I have more infantry coming in with another tank coming in as well. Whereas down here, he only has 3 infantry, and I have 3, 4, 5, 6, no, 7 infantry, and an artillery, and an anti-air, and a tank. So while it's not perfect, I outnumber him down here. And while he does have units on the way, neither of them are going to be within range for at least 2 turns. So I can clear these out and get my main forces down here to clean up the mess. All right, so back to my turn, day 12. We're going to start seeing some more engagements. So the first thing I did was capture the comm tower. You do want to make sure if you are in the middle of capturing it, you do that first, because if you can get it that turn, you'll give yourself a small boost. So right now I'm at a 20% boost for attacking, and if I'm on planes, I get another 10. So at this point, I have a potential 30% attack increase. And when I'm attacking my opponent. So this will have a significant advantage for me over the next coming turns, especially with the upcoming engagements. So I finished capturing my city down to the left, and I decided to attack his infantry that was on the road. Good engagement. I did 6 damage to him. I only had 2 in return. He was on a road tile, so he had no additional defense. I also attacked from the road. I could have gone from the forest, but I opted not to do that since I needed to load that infantry in. And I moved it over into the forest, so now it's essentially protected. Dropped it off on the mountain, got myself some vision so I can see what's going on. I can see he at least doesn't have anything in these roads. I mean, he did have some items, some units in the forest, but I didn't see that. But he doesn't see mine either, so it's it's good enough for me. And both these units are essentially protected at the moment. So I move my tank onto the comm tower, take out his infantry, so that's 1 unit down. Move my second infantry onto the forest, take out his. So I took no damage in that engagement, and now my infantry is now protected since it's in the fog, so it can't be seen. So this has two uses. One, I can go either for the city or the comm tower, depending on how the next turn goes. And if I go for both, I have a city, so I'll take out one of his income and gain one of mine, which will be a devastating blow the more I get. Move my artillery over, keep it protected with my infantry. Find out that he had infantry in the forest. I became trapped, but I surround my artillery just in case. It's essentially protected for this turn. And my anti-air is in this forest, so it is essentially protected as well. So even if he wants to move the infantry, my anti-air can take it out. And if he happened to have a battle copter in these 2 forest tiles, or coming along, which he ended up doing, I can at least get it to do. I can threaten it with this. I don't have the whole field there yet, but he doesn't have one close by, and my goal is to just move it to get it around this area to help take care of it. So my actions in the bottom left are essentially done. Keep moving my infantry down, start moving my battle copter over. I put it on the HQ just in case he was trying to do like some type of sneak attack. I wasn't sure if he was planning anything, but I'd rather have the protection just in case. So I start going for the airport. Even though he had some infantry there, I figured I could just start threatening it. Was going to try to put infantry in the forest, but got trapped. So since I was trapped, I attacked with the battlecopter, brought it down to 2, so now this one is essentially useless. I attack his infantry, so we can see that the boost from the comm towers is making a big difference here. Even though he is on the city, not the city, the base, and he gets 3 defense, I still brought him down to 6, whereas he only hit me for 8 because of my 3 defense as well. I won't heal up because it's a comm tower, but the defense is still there. This was not the best move, but my thought here was that I couldn't really attack anything, so I wanted it a little bit closer. I didn't think he had any vision on me, which he didn't for these two. But let's see. Yeah. So he didn't have any vision on me. He might have with the recon. I can't seem to tell. But I'm assuming he does now. And I didn't know he had the recon, so not much you could do about it. So I move my infantry to the left to protect my artillery if something were to come up. It's very exposed here and here, so that was a bad move. Started moving my anti-air medium tank over, built 2 tanks and an infantry, and then that ended my turn. So we can see here that he didn't have vision on my artillery, but if he moved anything up there, it would have started to engage it. So we'll see how the turn goes. So we can still see that he does have a unit advantage on me by 2. I do have a value advantage by a little bit, and we can see that we're closing the income gap. I'm only 1,000 behind, but even being 1,000 behind, these 2 units are still essentially useless, and his main units are down here, not really doing anything since they have to make their way through a forest, and all he has is infantry up here. So again, I'm feeling confident. He attacks my airport. No, he attacks my infantry on the airport, which is to be expected. He wants to stop that capture as soon as he can. He only brought it down to 6, and I hit him for 7. So the defense and the comm towers are really coming in clutch there. He does attack my infantry on the comm tower. Not the best move, I don't think, but he brought me down to 5, and he's going to finish me off with the next one. Brings another infantry up. Not sure what the plan was, but he starts to capture it. I can't say I agree with the movements that he's making. He did engage my infantry, brought it down to 5. He still doesn't have, he only has 1 comm tower, so he's a 10% boost. It's not a big change, but the 20% that I have is really starting to show. He continues to move his infantry up, keeping some hidden in the forests, cities, and he moves his recon in. So I'm thinking he was trying to go in, see if I had anything. He did see that I have an infantry in there, and I'm sure he has vision on my medium tank. So this medium tank, if it wants, can wipe out this recon. And I'm assuming 1 hit. And he starts moving his anti-air into the forest, and he started bringing his tank up. So again, now he's starting to get some value out of these 2 units. I still don't know what he's doing with the anti-air, but it is there. And, he's continuing to capture that. So he took out the last infantry that I had here for 6 health. So now his infantry is hidden, but I do remember that it is there. We just have to take care of it. So he starts moving his units here to the left, puts his artillery on the city. He gets trapped by my transportation copter with his tank. His tank can see my infantry, so he breaks in his battlecopter, and the battlecopter is essentially protected. I can't get to it since the mountain. Well, 1, the anti-air is not even there yet, and 2, even if it was protected by a mountain and a forest and a tank. So I don't have any real method to get to it. But he did have 2 tanks and a rocket in place. And he built another tank going north, starts bringing his mech up, drops it off, starts going for the comm tower. I don't agree with what he's doing with the APC. I'm not sure what the plan is, but he did build a medium tank So that can be pretty devastating depending on what he's doing. Let's see if we can get rid of that. But I feel like this medium tank that he built is going to be a little too late. And yeah, so he does have a medium tank, but the medium tank, no matter which way it goes, is going to take 3 or 4 turns to start engaging. If he brings it to the left, I have the artillery. And even if he doesn't, I have an airport here, so I can start building bombers or our more battle copters to help take care of it. So while it is a good unit, I think it's going to be a little too late in this situation. I feel like this rocket was useless for him. It did help crack that seam, but another artillery could have done that, and a $16,000 investment for just one unit, especially in that early game. And especially, I mean, I get a medium tank is the same cost, but with the rocket, you have to move it, get it set up, then fire. Nothing in range, got to move it again. So I really don't think that was the best choice. Possibly going for a tank or this, air units would have been a better choice. So my artillery is starting to see some action. I destroyed one of his. That's not what I wanted. So I destroyed his full HP infantry. At this point, I have a 30% boost because I'm sitting on a plane and it's on a road, so it dies in one hit. I use my battle copter and take out his infantry there. I continue capturing this. I'm pretty much uncontested at this point, and I move my infantry off these forest tile just to finish off this unit. But the main purpose will be to get my medium tank down and take out that recon. So that will definitely reduce his vision in the area quite a bit. I move my infantry here to give my airport some protection, and I move my other infantry in to attack, bringing this one down to 1. So it's now essentially useless, and also gives me protection here. So this airport will be mine, unless he has some, wild attacks coming up. Move my infantry into the forest, keep my anti-air hidden, just in case he has an air unit in the vicinity. If he has an air unit and a tank, it can take out my infantry, which is not my infantry, my anti-air, which is not what I want. So I do keep it hidden just in case. I'm not worried about this comm tower. He only has 2 HP, so it's not like he's going to get it in the next couple turns. So with my actions in the top right corner complete, start focusing down on the left. I start going for the city. So I start going for this city, and there we go. So I start going for the city. I should get that next turn. Move my other infantry down to keep protected on the top. Bring my artillery down just to fire on any units. In hindsight, I probably should have put it in this tile, but I wasn't really sure, because at this point, anything below here, there's nothing to attack, so I've put it here. I'd be able to cover this, and this, so, just something to think about for the future. Bring my anti-air down, to give myself coverage on all these squares, and, because I see that he has a battle copter, so I'm assuming that will come in at some point. So if he does attack anything here, it will immediately, the anti-air will immediately take out the battle copter. Place my transportation copter in this spot just to give me some protection for the city, because I really want this city, so it can be mine. Move the tank, protecting the tank from this tank and the battle copter, since I don't want a first strike, so I'd rather infantry take some damage. And since I have infantry in the forest, it's going to get trapped, so I'm pretty confident that it won't take any damage. I move my infantry up into the forest, see if there's anything in those tiles, which he didn't. It's also protected again, so it won't immediately die. He did bring an infantry down in this forest. which it is hidden, so it's in a good spot. And I start bringing my battle copter down, my tanks. So even if he did have an anti-air here, the 2 tanks will take it out. And he did, but I don't think it ends up playing any important roles. Build another medium tank. With the same idea, if he had a bunch of small tanks, the medium tank will help take it out. Follow that up with some infantry and move my last one just to complete the line. So essentially, this unit is completely protected, and these 2 are protected as well from first strikes, and build another transportation copter. So at this point, I'm feeling really confident. I thought I had a higher income lead than I actually did, and I did feel like I was at a much higher unit advantage than I was. I might only have 1 more, but we can see that the values, I have almost 20,000 more in value compared to what he has. And I feel like where the majority of the battle is taking place, he doesn't have the right units in place, so I'm able to really cover what I need and start capturing these cities so I get them sooner. So he comes in, takes out my transportation copter. No surprise there. The battle copter would one-shot it. He does have the 10%. Oh, no, see? Okay. So here's a good example of comm tower. So this comm tower he should have captured first. If he did, he would have had a 10% boost. For this particular engagement, it didn't matter, but if he was having more, so see, he has a tank coming in, so he only did 4. He could have done another 10% damage on that with the comm tower, but since he didn't capture it, he's missing out on some damage. Brings in an artillery, but he happens to put it right next to my infantry, so I know he has it, but he also knows my infantry is there as well. He does finally capture the comm tower after 2 engagements. So I always capture first to help avoid scenarios like that. Takes his infantry out of the forest. Not sure what his plan is, but he does kill my infantry, which is to be expected, since it was in range and only had 5 HP. Brings this rocket over. I don't agree with the rocket at all because of the forest. I don't even think I knew he had it. But now it's on a forest, and it still can't attack anything, so it's still essentially useless. And he's starting to bring a mech over, bring in his tanks, bring in more tanks north. So this tank here took a shot at my artillery, brought it down to 3. So that was bad placement on my part. I probably should have moved it out, but I wanted to clear out what was there. Seems like he was trying to go in the forest to scout out what I had. Now he knows I have an anti-air. Starts going for my comm tower, but there's 0 chance that he will get that. He does kill one of my infantry, and he starts moving more infantry north, and his mechs, and he captures this city. So he still has an income lead on me, pretty sizable, but he's not taking full advantage of that income. At this point, he could have built a bomber, or more battle copters, or a fighter, or even a neo tank. So again, C moves his transportation copter, not in an ideal spot, but it is there. But that's okay. So he brings his APC down, going to build some more mechs and another medium tank. So he's probably going to start ferrying these guys up. So at this point, my counterattack begins. So I start by firing on his tank with my artillery, bringing it down to 1. I start going for his comm tower. I destroy his battlecopter. I take some pot shots at his infantry, bring it down to 4. Bring his artillery down to 3, so now his artillery is pretty much useless. Take out his tank. Bring out my other infantry down to protect my artillery. And I continue to capture on his city. So his city should be mine in a couple of turns if nothing goes wrong. And I took out his battlecopter, his tank. I essentially reduced his artillery to nothing. He still has a rocket that should be in range of attacking one of these. So I didn't know he had it, but I'm sure that would do some pretty decent damage. I also brought his power up quite considerably due to those attacks, but nothing you could do about it. So I bring my tank down, put it in the forest, keep it hidden, bring a tank down on the city, so if he did happen to attack me, it would be protected. All these units are basically covering each other, so they're pretty much protected unless he has like a medium tank or neo tank or something big. And these two are in forest, so they can just spring in and attack these units whenever they're ready. Bring my infantry down. So here's a good example of transportation. So I know that the infantry, I know that the transportation copter couldn't really move that far anyway, and it needed the infantry, so I brought the infantry over. So I know on the next turn the infantry can move here, put it in, and now it's at the maximum range that it could have moved, or same thing down here, depending on what I want to do. Let's see here. So I see my artillery's damaged. I moved it onto the city in hopes of protecting it and maybe start healing it up. I can still attack these couple spaces here, and even if he did want to attack it, he'd have to go out of his way. I need to be on plane, so I'd get additional damage on it. This was an error on my part. I meant to attack the infantry, but I pressed the wrong button. I was playing on my phone, and just a misclick. So that was a goof on my part. It did end up working out, but I think I was trying to either destroy this or destroy that. I don't remember, but I was not happy. So I ended up destroying the infantry with that one. Destroyed his regular tank with my medium tank due to the 20% boost. Well, 30% because of the plane. I take a pot shot with my battle copter onto his comm tower, and then finish him off with my other infantry. Clear up this 1 HP infantry, finish capturing the airport, move my other infantry through the forest, bring in another medium tank, and I build a bomber. So this bomber will be key, and it will pretty much help me break through this wall and then start working my way through here. So I did start to realize that this unit down here was starting to break apart, pretty much because they had no reinforcements. So this unit here was meant to reinforce what I had, to help move my way over, keep a steady stream of infantry, to keep capturing what he has, to lower, to get my income to keep growing. So he does have an income lead on me still. Our values are pretty much the same, but I'm finding that my units are in better positions, which is causing for better engagements. So I built a couple infantry because I'm worried that I'm going to run out and end my turn. So now Reaver's up. So Reaver's continuing on with the building, capturing the buildings in the middle. This anti-air has been here pretty much the whole match, doing absolutely nothing. So it's essentially useless. He starts moving in. He took a pot shot, and I believe he hit my infantry. Didn't do too much damage. Moved his infantry on the mountain to give him some pretty good vision. He shot at me with his rocket, which I didn't even realize he had, so that makes sense now. And then he hit me with his tank to finish off that tank. He's moving in his other tank, bringing in the medium, bringing in his mechs. So now he's starting to see the type of threat that's coming in from the left. And he's bringing in all of his units there to stop pretty much the wall of vehicles. But he has no idea that a bomber is there. So up north, we're back to battle up there. And he is bringing up a medium tank. He's bringing in a regular tank. He took a pot shot at one of my infantry, brought it down to 4. Not the best, but he starts to capture my comm tower. He kills the infantry on my airport. I don't necessarily agree with this move. I think he could have moved this infantry first, taken it out, and tried to cover it or capture it with the other one. That would have slowed me down just a little bit. But he brings the one in on the left, kills my infantry, moves that. See, I just don't agree with what he did. I feel this was a misplay. Would it have mattered in the end? Probably not. But it, just something to think about. Move the back units first. He could have moved this, killed it, moved the other one, started capturing. But he continues moving up, bringing in the mechs, bringing in the infantry, leaving his anti here on this forest for only God knows why. And he drops a mech off. So he takes a pot shot at my comm tower, brings it down to 9, slows me down. Annoying, but manageable. So I should get that in the next 2 or 3 turns, depending on how things go. But up here, I'm feeling very confident. I have my battlecopter, I have a medium tank, I have an anti-air. So even if I thought he would have a battlecopter at some point up here, and even if he did, I would destroy it. He only has 1 airport, so it's not like he's going to be flooding me with air units. And his 3 bases are down in this corner, so the more things I destroy, the longer it takes for him to get up here. So he does have an income lead, but it's not really mattering. And he built a Neo tank and 2 infantry. Interesting. All right, so now my turn. So I continue to capture. I load up my infantry onto the transportation copter, bring it down here. He could actually get some use out of the anti-air and blow it up if he felt like it. But at this point, I activated my power. I think the logic here was that I wanted these 2 indirects to gain some range, because I wanted this one to attack this unit, which did some pretty decent damage. I finished it off, used my battlecopter to take out its tank, scope, look in the forest, see if anything's there. Nothing out of the ordinary. So I bring in my anti-air, blow up his infantry, bring in my tank, blow up his infantry. So now my spaces are protected again. Start bringing my infantry over with the goal to capture these 2 cities in the next couple turns and also protect my artillery somewhat. Since this tank has 3, it's basically useless and can't do anything. So down south, I bring in my tank, my bomber, blow up his tank without any real problems. Take a shot from my artillery onto the mountain to bring that infantry down to 2. End up destroying it, destroy his artillery, bring in my infantry, and start seeing that he's capturing this city. So I thought, well, my guys are here, might as well take care of it. Bring him down to 2, destroy his infantry there, bring in my battlecopter, finish off his infantry, and bring my tank down here. So the goal here was that I thought he'd have 1 or 2 of these cities, not realizing that he has all 5. So I started bringing these infantry over to clean up this mess. So I'd capture this one and start capturing these. Give me an income lead, take out some of his income, and then maybe take the lab just because I can. Bring the medium tank down. This is essentially covering these units here, so if he did have anything, it would get blasted by the medium tank. So I build a battlecopter up here. This does 2 things. 1, it's a unit, and 2, it will protect me from being captured. I think I end up building a battlecopter in the bottom left-hand corner too. Build a couple more infantry, and then end my turn. So at this point, I'm feeling extremely confident. I know I'm going to get this city soon. I'll have this comm tower. Once I get this comm tower, I'll have a 30% boost. And then with up here in the top right-hand corner, I'm pretty much moving uncontested. I'm pretty confident he doesn't really have any big units up there. And as we can see, I have 31, he has 20. He still has an income lead on me, but it's not mattering. And the value lead is clearly in my favor. So he has a superpower, but he doesn't use it. Not sure why. but I think it could have really helped him here in some aspects. So he starts moving his medium tank. It's not doing anything, but it's getting closer. Takes a pot shot at my infantry with his infantry off a city, so he does have a big defense boost there, but that's okay. Takes a shot at me from the forest, and brings both of them down to 4. So these two are not as good as they could be now, but they're still there. He brings his mech up, brings his transportation copter back down, still not moving it very well. Takes a pot shot at me with his rocket to start breaking down my anti-air. Then he moves his tank. So at this point, I think he sees my bomber. I'm not sure what his plan was, but he starts moving everything in. He built a fighter. The fighter can definitely be a threat if he uses it. He builds a recon. He sees my infantry, and he sees my infantry. So, get rid of that message. Yeah, so I'll just skip that. There we go. So, at this point, it's not working right. Let's get back to where we were. All right. It's not right. Come on. Stupid. Whatever. So, at this point, we're back to my turn. He didn't use his power. I don't have mine, but that's okay. And what we're seeing here is that I have a significant advantage up here. My artillery is getting back to full health. Down here I have a bomber that's pretty much uncontested except for this fighter. And I have an artillery and some infantry. I finally got this comm tower, and I got his city. So I'm getting closer in the income gap. I still have a higher value, but I essentially have a passive 30% boost, and on planes I get an extra 10. So I can have up to 140% extra damage, and I mean extra 40% damage. So I start bringing my infantry in, capture a city, blow up any units in the middle, start getting that city. I put my transportation copter on the forest to scope out if he had anything. Dropped off my unit here to give it some protection. Probably should have put it on the city, but it ends up working out. I check the other forest, see if anything's there. Bring the bomber in, blow up his medium tank. Take my battlecopter, do a lot of damage to his tank. Finish it off with my other tank. Start capturing that city up in the corner, bring my artillery in to give some coverage, hide my infantry in the forest with the goal to get this one, and then start moving more in the middle to start overtaking the middle, and use my infantry to blow up the tank right here. Use my anti-air to take out the infantry. Use my battlecopter to take out that infantry. Start capturing this. Take a pot shot at this mech. Might be able to destroy it. Not destroy it, but significant amount of damage. Bring this infantry down in the forest just to give some coverage, some vision. Some more moves. Go into the forest for some protection. And build another transportation, some more infantry. At this point, I'm feeling very confident. My only problems here that I felt that I didn't have enough infantry, so I just took a turn to build up some more, and built a battlecopter down here. Save up my money because next turn I can get another bomber or a fighter. So I think he's starting to see that the end is coming. I have about a 50,000 income, 50,000 value lead. I'm only 1,000 away from matching his income. I am 100% going to get the city, so it'll be tied. And then I will eventually start getting these around here. because even if he uses that anti-air to take out my infantry or the transportation copter, it will blow up almost immediately when either the tank or the medium tank decide to attack it. So he takes some pot shots at me with his rocket and his mech, not really doing any significant damage. He's getting traps in the forest. He's making his moves over, bringing the fighter and the Neo tank, moving more units up north, getting trapped by my battlecopter. He blows up my battlecopter with his anti-air, so now I'm pretty much uncontested in the middle. He gets blown up from my infantry. He's going for the comm tower again. And I think at this point he realizes that there's not really much that he can do, so he just resigns. I don't think if he resigned, I probably would have won in the next 5 or 6 turns. This down here was pretty much on lockdown. This would have been bad news, but I could have just built a fighter on my own to counter that. And even if I didn't, I can just keep building bombers, on each side, and then just slowly start to make my way down. And then with this, once I got these 5 cities, that would have brought him down to only about 19,000 a day. I would have been in the 28s, around 28,000, and plus the 30% boost. There's pretty much nothing that he could have done. So overall, it was a good match. I liked the layout of this map. I really enjoyed it. It's called Chernobyl. I'm assuming like the incident that took place with the nuclear power plant. So I liked the theme, like the pipes, like the seams, like the placement of the forest, liked it on the fog. If this was non-fog, I think it'd be pretty bad. But with the fog of war aspect, it makes it pretty amazing. So check it out. Uh, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe and like it if you do. And I'm always open to feedback. If you think something can change, just let me know, and I'll read the comment and work on that. So thanks for watching, and you have a good day.